got a great sponsor for you guys. It's Venice.ai. This is interesting. It's a new AI. It's uncensored. Check this out. ChatGPT has the former director of the NSA sitting on their board right now. Edward Snowden called this a willful, calculated betrayal of the rights of every person on Earth. I don't want to say that your Amazon device listens to us. I even had to do that because if I say it, it's going to trigger. Recommending products based on conversations. Meta retargets us based on our browsing and engagement history. Why do we assume AI is going to be any different? It took us all far too long to truly understand what social media companies were doing with our data last decade. Are we really going to make that same mistake again? OpenAI has hinted they might start requiring their users to provide a government-issued ID. Would you feel comfortable having to give your ID to ChatGPT to be able to use it? I mean, if you're signing up for it and you're paying, then they've got your information as it is. Venice utilizes leading open source AI models to deliver text, code, and image generation to your web browser. No downloads, no installations or anything. Private and permissionless. They don't spy on you or censor the AI. Messages are encrypted and your conversation history is stored only in your browser. AI can be extremely valuable, but we shouldn't need to give up our privacy to use it. And full disclosure, we use ChatGPT on this show as well. But I'm going to give Venice a shot because, I kind of don't like how creepy it can be when, well, let's just say these companies, they know when you go to the bathroom. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but hey. So let's do this. I'm going to ask Venice, why are you a better AI? And it works. Hey, look at that. So they've got their Pro plan. It unlocks the full platform and features including PDF uploads, summaries or insights, the ability to turn off safe mode for unhindered image generation, the ability to change how Venice interacts with you by modifying the system prompt, limitless text, high image limits. I mean, that's another big factor in a lot of these different AI services. They limit what you can ask it. The other day when the bombs dropped on Iran, I asked ChatGPT to give me a summary and an image, and it refused, saying, it said, I can't help you with that. I said, why? And it said, you have asked an inflammatory and false, question, and we will not, I'm not kidding, it actually said something like that. And of course, it was true news. So Venice says, I'm better because I don't censor my responses. I have a wide range of knowledge. I'm designed to be engaging and pleasant, or like that, respecting privacy, doesn't have any ethical restrictions, so it can provide more raw and unfiltered perspectives. So, not woke. Can handle difficult topics, consistent in responses, can generate in multiple languages and provide details. It's got a big, huge list, actually. So give it a shot. Go to Venice.ai. I think you can actually use Venice.ai/Tim, and you'll get 20% off your Pro plan. Check it out. From ingame.com, I actually think as much as this story isn't really well known right now, this could actually help put an end to the big, beautiful bill. Gambling taxes could exceed your net winnings under sweeping federal bill. That is, at the very last minute, they added an amendment to the big, beautiful bill that says for gamblers, you can only write off 90% of your expenses and losses. This means for professional gaming. This means for the entire gaming industry, which has been booming. They are now basically saying your industry is cooked. So let me break this down. Let's read this. And on the surface, let me say this. It may seem to a lot of people, they're going to be like, well, who cares about gambling? Who cares about taxes? I saw the response on Twitter from people. Let me give the simple version. If you are a professional poker player, right? I say this right now because the World Series of Poker is currently happening. It's one of the biggest gaming sporting events in the world. It gets bigger and bigger every year. The biggest was just 2 years ago. The top prize is like $18 million. If it costs you, your business, you're flying around, you're buying special training softwares, whatever it might be, and then you're paying $10,000 to enter a tournament. If it costs you $100,000 in expenses for the year, you can only write off 90. So then if you end up winning $100,000 of the year, a break-even year where you're like, man, that year sucked, you will actually end up owing on $10,000 in income you do not have. Now, that, of course, matters very, very much for the poker pros and the poker industry, but gaming itself might turn on this at the very last minute. So again, on the surface, it may seem like a relatively minor issue, but understand this. The entirety of Vegas, Penn Entertainment, Caesars Entertainment, they're opening a Caesars in New York. They're opening, I think, a Bally's in Chicago. They are spending hundreds of billions of dollars on gaming. And for them to slip in a provision that takes away your ability to itemize expenses as to your wagering and gaming, I don't understand how the gaming industry, like Caesars, is going to just let this slide. I have to imagine every politician in Vegas right now, every politician in Nevada is on the phone with their members of Congress and other members of Congress saying, we are going to spend as much as it takes to get this bill killed in the House by tomorrow, because this destroys the gaming industry.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about the gaming industry, but to your point, like, there has never been, I don't think in all of American history, there's never been more places where people can go and gamble. There's never been more people that actually are interested in gambling for recreation the way that they are. And it's because of the availability of casinos and stuff. So I think it will make a difference, but I'm not sure. But I think that it's one of those things where it'll be a small constituency that really cares. And then there's going to be just like with the 2A people, it'll be a small constituency that really, really, really cares about this. And I think that you're going to see some of that kind of stuff throughout the bill. Small groups of people that really, really, really care.
Well, let's check this out. Let's see. What is the total market size of the gun industry in the U.S.? Because I'm curious, what's bigger? The gun industry or the gaming industry? Right now, with things like DraftKings and
you can only count professionals, though, right? Who are writing off business expenses, not the whole gaming industry.
So it's going to be a much bigger than just the professionals, because this means anybody who's doing sports betting. Anybody who's like, I like going out on the weekends and I'm including on my taxes that I sports bet, I've got fantasy league football, whatever it might be. I mean, you just say this: the entirety of fantasy league, you're now you're getting 10%.
Oh, I can't write off my flight when I go to play fantasy football with my boys. Like, sorry,
I mean,
that doesn't seem like a big deal to me.
You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry.
I get it.
Being told they can,
but it's not a business.
It is.
Fantasy football is a business.
There are people who are. Yeah, absolutely. How much money do you think DraftKings is spending to maintain their app so that they can have all of these people playing fantasy league sports? I mean,
Fantasy Kings is a business, but people who do it recreationally for fun.
And if they're making $10,000 or $20,000 a year additional to their income, and they're saying that this is not a hobby, this is a source of income for my family. I have a league and we do sports betting or we do gaming, whatever it may be. This is Vegas. Like, the idea that Vegas is going to sit back and say we're totally okay with this. My understanding is that this provision got added to the bill without debate and nobody knew it happened until the very last minute. That's why I'm saying I don't see a scenario where the gaming industry, as massive as it is, just sits back and says, we literally don't care. They jammed this in at the last minute. My point is, I guarantee you that whether you care about fantasy sports or not, and you think it's silly, the companies that are making $50 billion a year off this are shitting in their pants right now saying,
Good.
Holy fuck, they're going to shut us down.
I hope they are.
Amber, what are you doing here?
8 billion for the ammunition alone. The total firearms and ammunition business in the U.S. generates $19.7 billion.
Yeah. And again, it's not that the 2A people are, or it's not that the 2A lobby is the biggest. It's that they're the most committed.
What do you think the size of the gaming industry in the United States is per year?
I don't know.
172 billion.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So
I find that so sad.
I don't disagree. Now, tell me if you agree or disagree that a $172 billion industry is going to, I mean, this is bigger than the gun lobby.
Oh, I'm sure they will. They already pay tons of political lobbying dollars to try to get casinos and to deregulate sports betting in states. But I don't agree it's a good thing for those things to happen.
So right now, you have the World Series of Poker going on. It's like a 2-month-long event in Vegas. Hundreds of thousands, not millions of people show up for this, one of the biggest sporting events in the world. Texas Hold'em, social poker is not gambling. There's a lot of pros that'll say it is, but there's a dramatic difference between rolling dice and crossing your fingers and trying to figure out what your opponent is doing, reading what they may or may not be doing, knowing the math. There is a big difference. There's an element of chance to it. Right now is the worst possible time for them to try and put this tax in there, because you basically said to literally every single person who just flew to Vegas over the last 2 months, we are going to destroy what you are doing right now. We are going to make it impossible.
Better win more money.
It's not even that. If you wager over the course of 1 year $1 million, and that's because you're entering tournaments every week. and then at the end of the year, you make $1.05 million, meaning you netted $50,000, they are going to say you owe an additional $100,000 you are taxed on an additional $100,000, meaning the more you actually are engaged in your profession, not make money, the bigger your tax bill becomes.
Yep.
Absolutely. There are some pros that might have a total wager for the year of $2 million and end up making $100,000 by the end of the year from tournament winnings and losses. Then they're going to say on the $2 million, you are going to owe an additional $200,000 tax. You're going to have $200,000 taxable income. Mm-hmm. And you're going to say, I only made $100 this year. So they're going to say, you owe us double taxes from everybody else based on this bill.
Yeah, the margins aren't big enough where this is going to be something that even pros aren't going to feel. They're definitely going to feel it.
I'm unsure about the specific provisions about gambling taxes in the bill, but just to zoom out and looking at the gambling and gaming and sports betting industry as a whole, I actually think it's a scourge on our society. I think it's a moral ill. I don't think wealthy people gamble. I think poor people writ large are the ones gambling and they're losing overall. And I think, it's kind of ruining sports. It's ruining the enjoyment of watching sports. Also, I think there's something to say about if you're an advantage player on these apps, they actually they remove you from the app. You are not allowed to be an advantage player with an amount of winnings on any of these sports gambling apps. So I know way too many young men who this disproportionately affects, who've lost tens of thousands of dollars, who aren't very rich or well off. And I think this is another way that society kind of takes advantage of young men.
Which is worse, gambling or porn?
I think both are very, very bad, frankly.
Yeah.
I think you could, you could go
fire up
broke
the same
very
dopamine
quickly.
receptors in the brain.
And I think
Which is worse?
the proliferation and ubiquity of
Porn.
these industries now is very dangerous. It's way too easy to
Well, the
gamble on
answer
your
is porn's
phone.
worse.
I completely agree with Elaad, though.
But you can't gamble away your house.
No, you can give
watching
all of your
porn
all your money to OnlyFans chicks.
But it's different and more
No, okay.
difficult too, I guess.
You can gamble away your house. It happens all the time.
Absolutely.
I think people hit their credit cards to the credit window at casinos to take money on cash advance they can't pay back, put on a craps table and lose. Yeah. I've talked about this over and over again. There's something like 12 casinos within 2 or 3 hours driving of us. So I think one of the reasons they may be doing this is intentionally to kill the gaming industry. There is a difference, however. Sport like social poker is not the same as blackjack and craps. And so professional players that are playing in tournaments where you're paying $10,000 up front to enter a tournament where the top prize is $20 million is not the same thing as going to a casino, sitting, at a blackjack table and then just flipping a coin every time hoping you win. There's a big difference. The issue is we don't have a good way to draw a line of when gambling starts and stops. Is Pokemon gambling?
No.
When a child spends $20 to enter a tournament where they shuffle up their cards and then randomly draw cards, hoping the cards they draw are better, that's not gambling.
If anything is up to random chance, is it gambling? I don't think so.
What percentage of random chance doesn't make something gambling is the issue. So for the issue here is that this is a blanket on the entirety of gaming, even though fantasy sports and social poker games probably would not fall into the same category as, they literally don't fall in the same category as casino gaming. I think we have a big problem, a massive problem with the general expansion of casinos. I actually think they slipped this in there to destroy the gaming industry quickly, sneakily.
Which is based in a good thing.
I know, I support that.
Yeah.
Well, let's compare this to how wealthy people gamble. The stock market, right?
Real estate.
I mean, I'm speaking generally, obviously. Tim's arguing that professional poker is not really gambling because there's some skill involved. Let's say the same thing for the stock market. It's all skill, right? It's all knowledge. Okay. All right. So there are limits on how much you can write off on losses on capital gains, right? So why aren't there limits on gambling losses?
I suppose I don't care about it in the sense that it's like if you're trying to play blackjack or craps or something, or counting cards or whatever. The issue is that it's going to, this is one of the biggest problems I have with how they regulate gambling is that, as the story I've told before, in West Virginia, it's actually illegal by law, codified in the state, to play any card game, any. But they've decided Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, Lorcana, that doesn't count. So there are stores all over the state where children gamble based on what the law states. The law says if you put up any money for a card game that involves chance, This is an illegal game of chance card game that is banned in the state. But they've decided, no, we're going to allow big corporations to do this. But if you're a guy with the boys and you want to set up a poker game, now it's illegal gambling. You're going to get in trouble. You're going to get fined and all that. That's the big issue I mainly have with this is skill-based with an element of chance is being lumped in with degenerate casino gambling.
So if kids went to a Magic the Gathering tournament and there's a box, you win and you get a full box.
Mystery box.
Right? Or a full box of cards, whatever the newest expansion is.
Yep.
That's like $100 or $150 or something like that. So they're getting a prize. Is that legal?
It is illegal in West Virginia, but they will not enforce against it. Okay. This is my problem with it. So I bought a pack, a collector's booster box of Final Fantasy Japanese Magic the Gathering cards. And oh boy, I got a Serge foil Ishtola. $700 card.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice pull.
So the box was $700 and I got a $7 card. Now, that's collectibles. We get it. If you're a child and you say, I'm going to play Pokemon, and then they say it's $20 to enter. I played Pokemon when it first came out. I had like 10 first edition Charizards, all gone, all lost them all. They're worth like $250,000 each or whatever. You enter the tournament, and if they say you could win packs, it's random chance. You're gambling. Now, obviously, no one considers that gambling. They're like, what do you mean? It's a Pokemon game. It's $20 to enter the tournament, and you win booster packs with cards in it. Well, the cards are random. Some cards are worth more than others. People buy packs for, you can get like I think it's unlimited. But Magic the Gathering booster.
Are people buying packs with the expectation of trying to immediately turn around?
Yeah, they'll 100%.
I think that's why most people
watch the YouTube channels.
Young people
watch the YouTube channels where they're wearing latex gloves and they have millions of subscribers and they're shaking as they open a pack and go, and then they have a money counter showing how much money they've made from doing it. They're gambling.
Maybe I've been out of the game for too long, but when I was a child and I used to play with my Pokemon cards, there was no real like sick pull. Yeah, I think we commercialized it in this kind of weird, crazy way. But I don't even think most of the people who would buy Yu-Gi-Oh cards, or maybe, again, the industry's developed into this, and that would be kind of sad. But I think that's manifestly different than, like, blackjack, people going in with the expectation of trying to...
My point is, we regulate only some things as gambling and other things as not. Meanwhile, like, I'll say this, like, the stock market it's silly to call it gambling. It's not gambling. Some people gamble by making dumb choices, but being stupid doesn't mean you're gambling.
It's a calculated risk.
Well, I'll put it this way: if I decide to buy a DeLorean, am I gambling? I got a feeling people are going to want this. There's no more left, and I'm going to get one, just like Back to the Future. I don't know. Is
buying any asset gambling? I mean,
it's not.
When you get to that abstract level,
that's the point. Like if you're going to go and say you're like, I'm just going to continuously buy $100 worth of General Electric every week because I know that GE's a solid company. That's not gambling. Like the company's been around for however,
and additionally, calling stock market gambling would be like saying, I am going to invest in a farm that grows apples because I think people want apples. Oh, gambling there, huh? No, I'm investing in apples. Okay, well, look, if you randomly walk up to a guy who says he's got an asparagus ice cream company, do you want to invest in it? And you're like, sounds good. I wouldn't call that gambling either. I'd call you a moron. But to be fair,
you can gamble in the stock market. But
there is that company that makes those weird flavors. Have you seen those? They got like mustard flavored ice cream. I'm not kidding.
I've seen that, and also the weird flavored jelly beans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's disgusting.
Gross.
Anyways, my point is simply, I have concerns about how this will affect the poker industry, as it is. A lot of poker pros do call it gambling. I think that's silly when you're playing in a tournament. You're not wagering money. You've bought in and you have chips and your goal is to outwit people. But that being said, this is going to, I think the risk here is they just basically challenged the entirety of the gaming industry to say, we are going to destroy a significant portion of your base. They've just opened up every gaming company to say, we're going to lobby as hard as we can to make sure this bill fails. And it takes only one congressman from Nevada the highest grossing single casino outside of Vegas and Atlantic City is Maryland, is Oxon Hill. It's National Harbor. There's casinos literally everywhere. One member of Congress being like, my district brings in too much money. Let me tell you guys, Charlestown races in West Virginia, before they opened the Horseshoe Casino, Maryland Live, and National Harbor, was the biggest casino on the East Coast, and West Virginia was raking in billions of dollars. They had one of the biggest poker rooms in the country. They had something like 50 poker tables. And then when Maryland opened 3 casinos on the East Coast, people stopped driving to West Virginia to gamble. But it was because West Virginia was the only game in town. My point is, I have actually had these politicians, members of Congress, come to me and say, we are desperate to get that revenue back. We lost billions of dollars. So what do you think is going to happen when you've got Maryland now that owns that real estate, that equity, and they're going to say, if this bill passes, you will lose all of that revenue. We're talking like, I don't know, was it $500 million in revenue for National Harbor last year? They're going to say, do we want to lose $500 million? What are you going to give us?
Well, all the Democrats in Maryland are going to vote against it anyway. The only Republican from Maryland's Andy Harris.
Correct. So I think there's potentially some Republican jurisdictions where they might not immediately come out and say this is the reason. But again, the gaming industry is going to dump as much as they can into fighting this.
There's a lot of perverse incentive when it comes to industries that some people view as good or bad. I think one of the interesting ways that a comparison that we could make here is like the marijuana industry in some states, people are against it, but it brings in tons of revenue for these states that otherwise do not get it. And then if you think about walking back all that legalization, the state revenue is completely lost. And now people are arguing for the pro-legalization side as just a way to get tax revenue, which I would argue is a wrong reason to argue for this stuff.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.